star so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horse is kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. You'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.
Howdy there, I'm Matt McKinley and we're burning daylight.
In the saddle till the job's done right.
Welcome to Burnin' Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy.
Well, welcome back, Daylight Burners. It's kind of cooled down. I don't know what it was like over in Fallon today, but we had a nice little brief shower here about an hour ago. Kind of cooled everything off. I'm not sure where Bret went to, but got Bret Davis coming back here pretty quick. Maybe I might have to call him. Anyhow, it was a nice day, and we will be back here shortly.
Yeah, we got dropped somehow.
Oh, yeah, it's all good. We're back now though.
Okay, we're back. We're on the show. We're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, we're all set. So I'm gonna.
All right. Last thing I heard was you were talking about the weather and saying you didn't know what it was like in Fallon, but you guys had a brief shower over there. You're in Smith Valley, aren't you?
Yeah. So we had one of those little skiffs that come in and rain for about 10 minutes, and then went on about its way. But it was enough to drop the temperature down about 10 degrees.
Cool it down a little bit.
Yeah.
It clouded up here. You know, it doesn't hardly ever rain in Fallon. But it cooled down here a little bit. I think it was like 91 when I was finally headed home. Rode all my Colts and everything. I was headed home, went past the bank. I think it said 91, which, you know, that's bearable.
Yeah.
That's not fun.
No, it's not great, but it ain't bad. I mean,
no, you can do your work at that, and especially when it's 0% humidity.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in Oklahoma and Texas, stuff like that, and it'd be 91 and 85% humidity. And they had this deal that they called it real feel. And they'd say, well, it's 85 and the real feel is 102. And what the hell is real feel? If it's 102, it's 102.
Yeah. That humidity makes, man, I was in Memphis for a week here, it was last month, and there was one day it was like low 90s, but it was also like low 90s humidity.
Yeah.
And walked out and just like fog. I walked outside and it fogged my glasses up immediately, and I was like, oh shit.
For sure.
For sure. That's gross. That shit's gross.
Yeah, it is. It's the worst I've ever been in. When I was a junior in high school, I made it to the high school finals, rodeo finals, and it was in Illinois.
Oh yeah.
And I went out there, and I'd been in Wyoming all summer. And I jumped on an airplane, went to Illinois, and we landed at like 10:30 at night, 10:36 or something like that. And they said, "Well, welcome to Springfield. It's 10:36 in p.m. and you know, it's 92 degrees and 86% humidity."
Ugh.
And I was like, "What?" and it ruined my camera. Wasn't like I didn't have really nice camera or anything. Like I just had like a Canon or something like that. It wasn't like a good camera, but I just brought a camera.
Yeah.
And that humidity just nuked my camera.
Jeez, I remember we went to Charleston, South Carolina, and this was like early October, so it wasn't super hot, but that humidity I'd bought a brand new American Hat Company felt hat for my wedding, and
Just melted on your head.
yeah, it was. I mean, it wasn't even like a buckaroo hat because I'm from Southeast Colorado, so I tend to taco my hat a little bit. I don't get real extreme on the taco, but uh,
Pretty good hat.
yeah,
To be perfectly honest with you, like Resistol or a Stetson or something like
hmm
that. They're kind of a better. They're the last step before you go to a handmade.
right, yeah. I mean, because like I said, that was my wedding hat. I'll get a Rodeo King for everyday wear or the
Yeah.
whatever the Amish brand is that Cal Camp Supply carries. Those are pretty decent too for
Are
work.
they? I've not dealt with those.
They're cheap enough where you can buy one every year and they hold up about a year, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like $150, so it's like they're a good work hat. Just beat around. So I like Cal Camp Supply. I that's kind of where I order all my hats from until I can save up and get a custom one.
I had one. I had one built. Uh, it was the first year I was married, so I was 22, and I think the deal was Mad Dog Hattery or something like
Mm,
that out of Billings, Montana. And I was in Billings, and I had one built, and so I'd been wearing those. I wear an open road,
mm-hmm.
and I've been wearing those forever. And for whatever reason, I decided to have a 5.5-inch brim made,
Oh
and
man.
it was a cool looking hat. And he did a good job. It was a cool hat. But I just run into stuff all the time, run into the door and everything else. And I traded it off finally. And a few years later in Salina, Kansas, there was a girl going around there, and I kept saying, man, I know that girl. I'm sure I know that girl. And finally I went over and I introduced myself to her, and I said, I know you from somewhere. And we talked for a minute. We didn't know each other. And it dawned on me. I said, oh, that hat, where'd you get that hat? And she says, oh, I traded it off my brother. And I said, what's your brother's name? And she said, oh, so and so. And I said, yeah, that's what it is. I said, take that hat off, that my name's on the inside of it.
That's funny.
And yeah, I recognized the hat, not the girl. But
That's funny.
yeah, it kind of was. She and I ended up being kind of friends.
Mm,
But yeah, those damn hats are just, I don't know. Most of these brands anymore, like you say, you get a year out of them.
yeah. It's like uh, I I consider 6 months on a pair of store bought boots. Uh, like that's kind of about what I can get out of them. A hat,
I should think. I
yeah,
should think.
hat's about a year.
Yeah.
I bought my last set of customs that I put to work. I've got a really nice set of custom boots that Jake Houston made me, and but they're the kinds of, like I'm just not quite at the point where I want to retire them for work use yet, even though
Yeah.
Jake
Yeah.
really wants me to, because he wants me to beat the hell out of them and brag on them, and I think they'll do really well. But they're really nice still, and I don't, you know how that is, and
Yeah.
I just
Yeah. And
haven't went to it yet.
I'm actually the opposite way. Years ago, I was still a teenager. I had a horse buck with me and slip on the ice and
Mhm.
and fall on my foot, broke my foot in half.
Oh,
My
okay.
right foot, it broke it the opposite way that your foot bends.
Oh, nice. I bet that felt
Yeah.
good.
Oh yeah, that was terrible. And there was bones sticking out and everything, and I pretty much kind of walked it off. I mean, they said it, did some stuff to it and this and that, but I just put I was wearing, I would, all I would wear back then, because I was pure. All I would wear was Paul Bonds,
Oh, okay.
And so I walked it off in those Paul Bonds, and that foot kind of formed. It kind of healed to a Paul Bond shape, and so I've got a real bad bone spur on that one side. And it's when I order my boots now, it's 5/8 of an inch difference from the right foot to the left foot.
Huh.
And so ever since then, I've always had my boots made because I just can't wear store bought boots because they just hurt. I can wear them to church. I got a pair of I don't know what the fuck, who the fuck made them.
Yeah.
Just a pair of, they're nice looking boots, but they're kind of cheap. But I just wear them to church and go,
Yeah.
But I can't wear them all day long because they hurt. But so I've always had all my boots made, and where was I going with that? Oh, I guess on the handmade boots. So I've worn handmade boots my whole life, and I promise you, it's worth the money.
Oh yeah.
Wear them. Wear those. You won't wear them out. You get 6 months out of a pair of store boughts. I buy mine. Generally, I buy them two pairs at a time, and swap them out. I'll get 4, 5, 6 years out of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth the money. I mean, it's a heartache when you buy them because it's
they're such an upfront
$1,200
cost.
a pair.
Yeah.
For the on the cheaper end, they're $1,200 a pair. But,
yeah.
But that's still cheap. When you do the math, it's cheaper than a pair of store boughts every 6 months for $200 a pair.
Yeah. No, that's right. It's one of those, like, I know I should just wear them, but I just I've got a pair of store boughts that are about to eat it. So I'm just but then I gotta reshape my spurs, and so it's
I know
it's a whole thing. And so when it happens, I'll do it. But I'm kind of waiting for this last pair of boots to finally just shit it.
And you're in a feedlot, aren't you?
Yeah.
And feedlots just fucking eat everything.
It
just destroy your shit.
Yeah, that manure it just eats at everything, and if even when you clean them, you're still just soaking them over and over again, and that's not good on leather either. And it just
it's not good on the stitching's what wears out.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But they're wax calf, so they should hold up pretty good. And I mean they're comfortable as hell. They look sharp, and I went super cowboy. I went super puncher style on them and got like 18-inch stovepipes, and they look rad.
3.5-inch heels and the whole
they look rad as shit. But they're not real practical.
You can't walk in them.
No, exactly. But they look cool as shit.
God. So my friend Bino Kimball, he was telling me this, and this was a long time ago, because I don't know, Bino's in his 50s, but he had a pair made, and Bino's probably 6'6".
Oh, little fella, huh?
Yeah, little fella. And he was at Rosewell at Diamond A, and he had a pair made, and they had yellow tops and the whole 9 yards, and he had 22-inch tops on them.
Oh, that's over the knee shit.
Well, not for him.
Oh, I guess for 6'6", yeah. For me, that's well over the knee.
That's goddamn near up to my groin.
Yeah.
But for him that was right at the knee, and he had 22-inch yellow tops and wax French calf, and I think they were Paul-ons. I don't remember exactly, but so he shows up in the cookhouse, and he keeps crossing his legs. He's got his pants rolled up so everybody can see. And none of them old guys will say anything about him. And he just keeps kind of showing them off. None of them old guys will say anything about it. He's the youngest guy in the crew. And finally, he just says to one of them, he says, "Well, what do you think about my new boots?" And one of them old guys turns to him, he says, "Well, goddamn, you got to take them off, take a shit."
Yep, you about have to. You
Yeah.
almost have to.
Almost have to.
and
Yeah.
and even so, like you can leave them on, but it's not comfortable taking a shit.
No, 16-inch tops. I can get around them, but I'm not real happy about it.
Yeah, they do look cool, and I mean they got their place, but yeah, I think I'm more like a 14-inch top anymore. Like that's about my because my ankles are bad too, so like lace ups aren't real practical when you're
Right.
riding all the
Right.
time. But that's kind of what I need. But I think that's about any cowboy, anyways. Like I don't like if your ankle ain't fucked up at least once. Have you actually rode horses?
No, I think we're all crippled from at least the hoof to our knee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you got any age on you at all, uh, there's a bunch of them kids bouncing around. They're 22 years old. But hell, my legs good. Well, mine are shot.
Yeah, mine were pretty good until all of a sudden they just hurt, and then I was like, oh
Yeah.
shit. Like and it was especially been because I've been in the feedlot for quite a while now, and uh yeah, like when you typically when you fall down in the feedlot, it's not like a stumble and fall. It's like feet
It's
right.
a crash and burn. Yeah.
Yeah, like you're stepping on a piss spot or ice or something, and it's just like your horse's feet are out from under him, and it just like slingshots you into the ground, and that's hard on a feller's ankle. I can tell you that much.
For sure. And then and then you guys have in those feedlots, you got all those gates and all
Mhm.
those fences to get tangled up in,
Yeah.
and every feedlot cowboy I've ever met is riding a piss load of colts.
Yep. Yeah.
It's a good place to ride colts on one hand. On the other hand, it's a fucking terrible place to ride colts.
That's exactly right. It's and and it is not made for good gear. Like you're
No, you just tear shit up.
yeah, and like I don't know how to ride Romels because I didn't grow up in that part of the world, so I rode split reins, and then Team Ropers had the loop rein, but then I've been in the feedlot so long that I I I only ride split reins just because I've had shit get hung up on a gate rod too many times.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah,
just like
for sure.
you want that shit to pull loose, and I'd rather have one rein and and somewhat of control when they finally back away, as opposed to just breaking loose, and then yeah it just
A guy in I think where that was in southern Kansas was telling me the same thing about Romel reins, and he's like, "Yeah, you get in this brush and you get in these picker bushes and blah blah, and you don't want those Romel reins. You want split reins because he was riding a bridle horse with chains
mm,
and split reins, and I was like, what the fuck is that? And he was like, yeah, I know in this brush you don't. And I was like, man, I've been in fucking brush. I don't believe that. That's nonsense. And then fast forward about 12 years, and I got in some brush, and I got to Arizona
mm,
and went, holy shit, you do not want Romel reins in this country.
yeah.
Same deal. You just be flipping along there, and something would just grab your reins
Mm,
and just yaw your horse on one side. And that's brush. That's a whole lot. That's not even anywhere near the wreck as a gate.
yeah. Yeah, because I mean the brush will eventually pop loose.
So yeah, something's gonna give on brush, but
Yeah,
yeah, in a gate or something like that. Yeah, I wouldn't want them. Like you say, you can pitch one, still have one.
yeah, and like I respect all the like I respect just about every style of horsemanship. Like I've said a while, it's like It's like the old gangster, game recognizes game, and a hand recognizes a hand, and I don't care what discipline a horse you are, like you can tell when somebody can handle a horse, like they just
Yeah.
the way they carry themselves.
I can
But
handle a cow.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I don't know. It's a good stage of being a cowboy when you realize you don't have to buy all the cool or all the shit that everybody else has, when you can get by with your own, and like when you can handle something like that.
Yep.
That's a good. It's like a good, I guess, mark in life. Like a good stepping stone. You're like, all right, that gives you, you're confident where you can go get a job done, and then but I don't know. There's always those guys that like they cannot let go of like their style of horsemanship or cowboying or
Yeah.
whatever. And I don't know. I just me and Zach Sargent, we were trying to put this debate series that I wanted to get going, and I wanted to do the classic, just Buckaroo versus Cowpuncher, and then it all fell apart because everybody that I'd want to argue on, regardless of what side of the argument, they it ended up being, it would, that conversation or that whole debate would end up being just like, well, this is why I do it, but I could see why somebody else would do it this
Yeah.
way, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't be a good debate.
No, it well, and there's really not a debate to be had, because, and this is my point of view, just because I've traveled so much and just gone coast to coast and ocean to ocean and kind of fucking been all over. I get somewhere and they do shit different, and I was like, fuck, that's not how we do it where I'm from. And then I'd watch them do it and go, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It, like the first time I went to Oklahoma, and we were just roping a bunch of scour calves.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys were, it looked like they were all dally guys on rubber, which was kind of against my religion.
Yeah.
And I was young, but then we got out there and they shortened their ropes, put chain link on there, and they tied off at like, I don't know, 15, 18 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Well, shit, we go to just massacre chasing around roping calves. And it was like, well, that makes way more sense. I'm on 70 feet of rope trying
Yeah.
trying to doctor this calf. These guys are on 15 or 18 feet. And I went, oh, okay. I understand this. Now, now I get it.
Yeah.
And then I went to West Texas, and everybody tied off. And then I went to South America, and we tied off to our cinch, and I was like, oh, I don't know about this tying off to our cinch bullshit. But it makes sense. In every country, you go to a different piece of ground, different kind of cowboy and different kind of cows, different kind of way of doing things, and you go, oh, just do as the Romans do.
Yeah. Well, so were you down in Argentina?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was talking with Jake Zilke the other day, the Lost Cowboy guy that wrote that book. And
I don't know him, I guess.
He anyway, he wrote a book, and he'd cowboyed down there in Argentina. And then when I was at Cactus in Kansas, there for the last like 3 years I was there, my manager was from Argentina, and he was telling us about roping down there, and then you see those Argentine saddles, and there's no horn, there's not really much of a seat. It's kind of almost a
it's kind of like a glorified bareback rigging.
Yeah. And so how does that work? Rope and tied off to the cinch there, because I imagine you'd have to cinch that sucker down pretty tight.
Well, and that's what you think, but the way that deal, since the way those deals work, there's not a solid tree,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's a leather made, and it's kind of form fitting, but it's stuffed with horsehair, and so kind of a form fitting leather made tree. And so you put your pad on, and then you put that on, and you cinch it down on its own,
Yeah.
and then you put the sheepskin over top of that for you,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a separate cinch on that. And so you've got two cinches, and you're basically cinched, like a like a 5/8 or 3/4 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you're tied off to your rigging. And so as far as slipping or whatever, I I never had any problem with it, or ever saw anybody have any problem with it as far as that slipping around, because you'd rope something, but it was with the riata, so you didn't just pitch it.
Yeah.
You'd slow down and let those coils come out of your hand, and there was a lot of choking involved before anything came real tight.
Ah, I see. Okay.
And so, yeah, nothing ever came, like, it wasn't Texas style where everything just came hard and fast and just.
Yeah. Yeah, because that wouldn't work. I mean, that sucker would.
No, everything would have broke.
Yeah. Huh.
Everything would pop loose. But it was a slow kind of a deal. And to be perfectly honest with you, it worked really good.
Yeah.
There was times when I first got down there, and a lot of them cattle were Bramer cattle, or Bramer cross cattle, tiger stripe cattle, and I went too fast, and I got too excited, and was depending on my horn and having all that leverage and everything.
Yeah.
And I got a couple of wrecks right off the bat. But then watching those other guys, they just lope behind one with everything just kind of like semi tight,
Mm-hmm.
and let that old girl kind of choke a little bit, just a little bit, and then get everything tight, and then we do whatever we had to do. And it worked pretty good.
Huh. Well, I mean that's interesting. So are you from Oregon? I think that's what I.
Yeah, originally. Yep.
Okay.
I left Oregon when I was 17. But I grew up in Oregon.
Okay. Yeah, I've actually never yet been to Oregon. I've been fairly close, but that's Oregon and Washington's only states in west of
Western United States.
yeah, I think it's like the Dakotas, and then Oregon and Washington are the only states I haven't been to west of the Mississippi. So
Oregon's nice. I liked Oregon a lot. I'm from the west side of Oregon, so it's real steep and real timbered up. The vast majority of Oregon is desert.
yeah.
Is high desert is not that much different than Nevada.
Yeah, so you guys, like, you start out like California on the coast, but then where California would turn into Nevada, like Oregon just keeps kind of going, doesn't it?
Yep, that's pretty much it. That's the way you could say it. Is the Siskiyous. So in California they call them the Sierras,
Mm-hmm.
and then when it crosses the border, they're called the Siskiyous.
Okay.
It's the same mountain range.
Yeah.
But that Siskiyou range runs all the way up to Canada, and the valleys are the same as those California valleys. They're not as big.
Mm-hmm.
They're just north. They run north and south, and the valleys are lush and green. The treed up part of it, the mountain part of it, they call them a pine desert, and so they get the same amount of. I think what the number is 13. I think they get 13 on average inches of rain or inches of precipitation a year.
Okay.
And so it's pretty deserty, but then pines grow big.
Okay.
But it's all like 7 or 8% grade. It's steep country
Huh.
and real rocky country, and so it's all swell fork center fire country.
Yeah. That
where I
makes
come,
sense.
and then you get to the other side, like as soon as you get to Klamath Falls, and then the whole rest of Oregon, it's just wide open buckaroo desert country.
Yeah, high desert, Great Basin shit, huh?
Yeah, and that's the difference between the two cowboys. I mean, you get on the Klamath Falls side, everybody's got a flat hat and a slick fork saddle. Where I come from, everybody's got a pretty good bend in their hat,
Mm-hmm.
and a Hamley's looking kind of swell fork saddle.
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting.
And that's where I come from. That's the country I come from, and we didn't rope much. A cowboy on my side of the ridge, they weren't real well known for roping.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they all could rope, but they were kind of whale line guys, and kind of just get attached to one and get it wrapped around a tree or something like that.
Yeah.
Real similar to the Arizona kind of type cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
No fancy roping.
Yeah.
Because it was so goddamn steep, you couldn't.
Yeah, that's kind of like those tie hard guys, because like the true tie hard guys, they have to, because you're crashing through brush and stuff, and you only have one coil in your hand because you got one swing and go. And then once you got her caught, like you're crashing through the brush trying to get her caught, or get her stopped and whatnot.
Get her stopped, get her in a tree or something like that.
And it was kind of the same way with me, and because I was in that so it's just above the Oklahoma Panhandle, right on the border with Southwest Kansas, just above Texas Panhandle, and so it was a lot of wheat pasture type stuff. So it was the same thing, a lot of tied hard, but it was just good. But everything's parceled off in quarter section because it's homestead country,
Yeah. I bought a horse off of a guy that spent his whole life on one of those wheat section deals.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a pretty good horse, I thought. But then he couldn't trot.
Oh
he
yeah.
couldn't lope. He could walk and he could run.
Yeah.
Was all that. And he was like 6-7 years old. And I couldn't figure it out. And then I got talking to him about what he'd done with that horse, and I thought, well, hell, this makes sense. All this horse has ever done is walk through cattle and then bust into a flat run.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And
and that sucker could really walk, and then you could bust into a flat run and stop. And that was all that horse knew how to do, because that's all he'd ever done was just catch cattle.
I have to go take my horses out on the desert every now and then to remind them that they know how to trot, because they get that same way where they go from like a fast walk to a lope, and I really just want them, like it's like first thing in the morning when we're shipping cattle, and you're like, I just want them to go step out down the alley, just go, catch a trot, just cowboy shit, like that's there's nothing better than catching a trot first thing in the morning. Gets the blood pumping, gets your mind right, and it's good for the horse too. Like it keeps
gets
them,
their blood pumping and gets their mind right too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's in that right gait where you can feel it if they're gonna bust in two, and it gives you about a half a stride to adjust and get ready for it. Whereas if they're in a lope, all of a sudden they're just they can duck their head and just and get to hogging and like put you in a bad situation if you're not savvy to it. But a trot, like they gotta like they send a whole lot more cues that they're getting ready to bust into when they're at a trot like that, and it's just I don't know, it's just good for man and beast, I think.
Well, I think so too. I think that the trot is the most natural gait for a horse.
Mm,
You know, if you watch shitters wander around, they don't walk anywhere.
no,
They walk a little bit when they graze, but when it's time to go to water, they throw their heads up, hit a long trot, and
it's
go travel.
it's kind of like little kids too. When like you notice how they don't like a lot of them, some of them will run everywhere, but very few of them will just like amble along. Most of the time, they're just like zipping along here and there, a little trot.
Yep, yep,
And
yep.
it's just kind of like a natural gait for a mammal, I think.
Well, I think they think better that way.
Yeah, yeah, and I know it just like a good loping horse is really easy to ride, but like you have to know how to ride to ride a trot. And I mean, uh, I've never been on those big circle outfits, but I've made my share of like 30-mile days, plenty of times. And those first couple of times, like the inside of your legs are just like I never got to the bleeding part, but I wasn't far from it.
Yeah.
And you learn how to find that horse's rhythm.
No, that's no doubt. That's no doubt. I remember the first time you just brought that up, and it kind of brings this to mind. The first time, I went on big circle, and my boy wanted to go with me, and he was like 8, and I thought, shit, I don't know if you're quite old enough to go, but he kind of begged to go, kind of he really wanted to go, and it was gonna be an easy day. But by my standards, it was going to be an easy day. And we went, and I don't know, 3 or 4 miles into it, he was crying, and I stopped him, and I said, "You asked for this, don't you cry. You can cry all you want when we get home. You can cry all the way home and pick up. You can do anything you want, but don't you cry while we're doing this." And he kind of snuffed it up. I said, okay, Dad. And I said, just figure it out. And what I ended up doing is I tied his stirrups up.
Mm-hmm.
And I tied his stirrups to his cinches and said, just stand in them stirrups. You'll be all right. And long story short, it barked his knees up a whole bunch and this and that. But he made it through it. And yeah, them barked up knees. I mean, that's part of cowboying.
It really is, and I mean, it's like even those. There's only a handful of of guys that have never dallied in their life, but man, that
I don't guess. I bet you. I bet you $100 I don't know one.
yeah, I think I know one, and he's an old school, and he really only can't cowboyed there in the Texas Panhandle, and
Yeah.
but I never heard him talk about shortening up and then dallying off, but I almost guarantee he did. I mean, because it just it's kind of common knowledge.
Oh yeah.
But like you don't. That first time you go to the horn, you're gonna rip some hide off your fingers, like almost guaranteed.
Oh yeah.
And like my pinky doesn't sit straight anymore because it's hit the horn so many damn times. But it takes some hide burned off your hand before you figure out that horn doesn't move, and it's there every time. And if it's not there, then like you got a lot bigger problem than the skin off of your hand,
Yeah. No, that's no joke. Wait, my brother, when he was first married, he married a girl from Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And when he first married, and this he probably didn't go about it exactly right, but I kind of support the way he did it. His deal was she couldn't wear a glove until she could brand calves without burning her hand.
Okay.
And so she burned her hand and burned her hand and burned her hand and burnt her hand. And he said, no, you don't get to wear a glove. And I don't wear a glove. I know some guys do, but I don't. I just burn my hand.
It depends on the iron. Some of those irons run pretty damn hot, but
Yeah, but yeah, he wouldn't let her wear a glove until she figured out how to get through branding without burning her hand. And the truth is, and they're divorced now and so on and so forth, but she fucking figured it out.
yeah.
It hurt her bad enough that she figured out how to not do it. And that's one thing I've never done.
Yeah.
You know, I still burn my hand.
It's yeah, like I said, there's certain irons that I can, and of course being in the feedlot, that kind of takes you away from your traditional branding pins. I've branded.
Yeah, it's branded a bunch of them in a hydraulic chute.
Yeah, it's not near as cool as the rest of it, but like I've branded tens of thousands of cattle, but every iron's different too. But then I've also branded probably thousands, like bumping up on the 10,000 mark on out on pasture too. So like I'm no stranger to it. I'm not the best at it, but I like every single iron's different too, and some of them hold the heat different. And if you can get to where you can just like you can figure out how to handle that iron, yeah, it's a whole different deal. But yeah,
yeah. Well, and some of them horses, some horses don't. They're not bothered by any of the entire deal. Nothing bothers them except the smoke.
yeah, it's the smoke or like that whoosh of the propane, like that noise from the propane fire. That'll get a horse every now and then.
There's funny little things, and you think, oh shit, this is all going to be good, and then propane whooshes or the smoke comes up or whatever, and next thing you know, you're missing piece off your pinky.
Yeah. It's and then the Texas guy would be like, well, if you were tied on, that would never happen. I'm like, it still might have. Like there, shit can happen as you're letting them coils go too.
Yeah, I get what those guys are saying, but and I've tied off a bunch, and to be perfectly honest with you, I like tying off.
Yeah,
but it so long as everybody on the crew knows how it all works.
Yeah.
If everybody there knows how to tie off, fuck, I love tying off. I prefer it.
What?
But the thing is you get up there, and like if you don't have enough room, take another step, and you're tied off, well, you're fucked.
Yeah. Like you're trying to like squeeze your horses as tight into that fence as you can, but you can't. And then
if you're dallying, you can slip a little rope or this and that or the other thing. You're tied off, you're committed.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I never liked about tying off. I loved tying off when I was, I used to rope a lot of horses. I used to catch a lot of Mustangs, and so tying off, I loved it because if I caught it, I wanted it.
Yeah,
and no matter how bad the wreck was, like shit, I'd just get off.
Yeah,
you guys go figure that wreck out yourself. And then like roping wild steers and stuff like that. I like tying off, but branding calves, and especially nowadays, Brandon's when there's 16 kids and 2 wives
Mhm.
and 4 guys drinking beer.
Yeah.
Man, I want to be able to get away. That's it's not even me. It's I don't want to get in the middle of all that.
Yeah.
I want to be able to just pop my dallies and get away.
Yeah. No,
And
that's 100% right. Eh,
somebody might get kicked, and I'll yell, "Good God, here it comes!"
Yeah.
But that's why I don't like tying off the branding pen,
Yeah.
at least anymore.
Well, and like I got to give a good shout out to he's probably my best friend in the world, old Clint Mundell. He's his daddy is one of the better cattlemen I ever met in my life. But we grew up from like 5th grade up together, graduated together. Still, like he's still, and he took over his dad's place. But that's where I cut my teeth. Brandon season. It was like we went to the Mundell Ranch, and I started by like the first couple times I didn't even go trot out with the guys. I just helped build the fire because
Yeah.
we did a cedar post fire because it was quieter, and I learned how to build the fire correctly, how to spread the coals so that everything got heated up evenly and nothing got too hot. You learned how to listen to the pop of the wood to know when to put more on, and then you got to go wrestle calves, and then from there you maybe get you get to give vaccines, which usually is kind of it used to be almost like an like that's what you did the women or the kids to do, but
Yeah.
then ranchers started figuring out, like, oh, those shots are pretty goddamn expensive too, so like
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
better have somebody responsible. And so then it was like the women had to step up, or one of the other guys would have to step off his horse and run the shots. And then but like it only took a couple of years, it seemed like, before that, like, nobody looked down on the guy giving shots. Like like when I started, it was like looked down on a guy for giving shots, or like a guy coming up.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, when it was when those fellas realized how much the money that those shots cost, they they put somebody handy in charge of that shit. But then eventually you'd get to brand, or you'd get to rope, and then after you could rope for a little while and knew how to handle yourself on the ground, then you'd get to brand and castrate bulls. But like there was a whole process, and my buddy Clint, he kind of like he's tweaked a few things here and there since his old man, but he's kind of kept to that old style way of doing things. Like he still does a cedar fire, and he does it by the the phases of the moon, and
Yeah.
and also he does not break out the beer until the last calf is branded. And then once that happens and everything's kind of turned back out, what like the beer can flow. But I know a lot of people kind of, particularly like working cowboys and day working guys, that kind of look down on that. But I like it, because that, at least that way, everybody is hooked, and then everybody's working until that last calf is done. And then once it's done, yeah, let's go drink some beer. Let's have some fun.
Well, and see, that was something that confused the shit out of me when I left home, because the beer started as soon as you started.
Mm-hmm.
We might start branding calves at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Well, fuck, we started drinking beer at 6:30 in the morning, and so then when I left home and went out other places, and oh well, some of these deals we don't drink beer at all, and some of these deals we don't get to drink beer until the end, and I was a little confused about it. But I think it's a good deal personally, I think it's a good deal that when we're all done, we get to drink beer.
No, I think that's awesome. I think beer is an essential thing to a Brandon, but
I do too.
And I don't mind going. I mean, because I've partaken in it, and particularly when it's not your Brandon, or you don't. If you're just there to rope and work the ground, like I don't care when people start drinking beer, because eventually, if it gets real wild, I can back out and watch from the fence or some shit like that. But I get where Clint's coming from. He's like, well, I want everybody to have a good time, but like I want my Kevs branded. I want them cut good. I want them branded good. I want shots administered accordingly. But also I want people coming back. So like it just, and I think he's even kind of fudged the rules a little bit. So it's like when you're down to like the last, 10, 15 Kevs, then the beer comes around, but it's still sparingly because we still got 15 Kevs. And you know how like those last handful of Kevs, they can take fucking forever.
Oh, they're a fucking bitch.
Yeah. And it seems to work out better. Like when you can when you can wait till it's all done, let's get the work done. I have no problem with drinking on the job, but like on something like that, like it just seems to work a lot better. Like let's get everything marked, let's everything cut, and then let's get drunk,
Well, and so I'll tell you my experience in Arizona, where that was the first time that I'd ever been around where there wasn't beer at Brandon's.
Mm-hmm.
I was used to like you had Brandon's at normal times and blah blah blah. In Arizona, we brand every day.
Yeah.
Because we didn't ever pull the bulls, and we were just, oh well, here's a handful,
mm-hmm.
and we just brand, and so it was all the time. So there was no beer involved, which wasn't a big deal, other than the fact that like there was nothing, there was no hurrah at the end of it. If you branded 25 head of calves and there was no cold beer at the end of it, like, well, shit. Whoops. Gosh. We did some more work.
That's the way it felt. It feels a lot of times in the feedlot, because like you'll fucking bust your ass for a week straight. Like, we'll process 1,000, 1,100 head a day for like 4 or 5 days in a row, and then it's like, well, we got that one done. Here comes another one, and you're just like, fuck.
Yeah.
And you're just, it's just like, I don't know. It's like the bigger the outfit you work for, whether it be cattle or size, it's just like you're just like, we're almost there. But it's just it's another day.
You never get done. You don't ever get done. You just get tired.
Right. So like, I can't remember if I had talked to you about this before, but I worked for cactus feeders when we were doing the confined cow calf deal, and we at one point we had 7,000 head of mama cows, all in the feedlot. It was originally about I think the permit was for 40,000 head of feeder cattle, and then this all started in 2012, I think. Kind of the tail end of that huge drought.
Yeah.
In the Midwest.
Yeah.
And so I went from just strictly feeding, I think we were getting our bottom in the cattle was 700 pound steers that we were getting, and then feeding them out to like where we got we got a whole bunch.
1150 or something like that.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden we got a whole bunch of like fucking range cattle that we're trying to calve here in the feedlot, and
What a fucked up mess.
yeah, and we went from like 600 head to at one point I think it was about 7,000, and
oh shit.
yeah, I pulled a lot of fucking calves. It was kind of a shit show, but it was I was looking up advice from everywhere around the world on how the best way
what the fuck do I do here?
Best way to calve cattle, and then like and it eventually got me fired because like my ultimate analysis of the whole deal is like, this doesn't work. Like we bust our ass and we do everything like we possibly can do. Like I had a pretty good crew of cowboys, and we still couldn't get below 10% death loss on a calf crop.
Oh shit.
And you're just like, and that's just doing everything we fucking could. And then they wanted to like throw some Holsteins on top of us to start for another feedlot. And you're just
try this too.
Yeah, and you're just like, well, which one are we wanting to do? Like, well, both. And we're like, well, we kind of need people for both. We can't do it all at the same time. And
what a fucking conglomerate. And so that's, I may be going totally off topic of what you're talking about.
Well, go ahead.
That is the fucking that's the ranching industry right there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what cowboys have to deal with, is we've got ranchers, and 99% of them have actually ranched, cowboyed, like 12 days of their life, and then they went to college or whatever, and they inherited the ranch, bought the ranch, did whatever. However they own this deal,
mm-hmm.
and they're like, well, dollars and cents is this, and this, and you're like, no, but it doesn't fucking work that way.
Right. You're just like the people on the ground that actually have to do it. They're just like, well,
right.
It just doesn't work.
It just, well, that's it. I see what you're saying. I see exactly what you're saying, but it doesn't quite work that way. We got to do this and this, and so you're dealing with some it's a never ending deal of dealing with some college educated fucking prick.
Yep.
And you're like, well, what the fuck? No, it doesn't. That doesn't work. We can't throw another 700 Holsteins in this deal, and we're barely fucking making it work the way it is.
Right. And so
and just on and on and on nonsense. Like that's the tribulation of being a cowboy nowadays, is you got to talk to fucking college educated pricks.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to go, no, it's not going to work that way. And they're like, well, no, on paper. And you're like, yeah.
Well, and so then you gotta try to convince them why a horse is better than a four-wheeler, because on paper the four-wheeler looks better every time.
Oh shit, yeah. Fucking four-wheeler is way better. Yeah. Except I can't do my job.
Yeah, exactly. But except when it comes to the practical part of it. It makes sense until it comes down to actually do a job, and you're like, well, fuck. That your guy broke his ankle because he had to jump off a four-wheeler because he couldn't turn fast enough, where a horse could have stopped and rolled back and put that cow back on the right path where you wanted to. And a good cowboy could have done that 10 times out of 10, whereas, like, honestly, like, it's about a 50-50 chance if if Pedro or and that's not trying to be degrading to the Hispanic population, but it's typically the Hispanic population that's running that four-wheeler. So
Yeah.
it's Pedro or Jose that's going to break their ankle or blow out their knee or whatever. And yeah, and so like, and at the end of it, that big company, they're, when it comes to their employees, they're worried about liability, and so they'll take all these steps to cut out the cowboy, which has accidents on pretty regular occasion, but yet instead they'll hire and these dum-dums, and I'm not saying they're not unintelligent, they just don't know a fucking thing.
Yep.
And put them on a four-wheeler because on paper that looks better, and then they end up paying that guy's medical bills for 4 years because he bailed off a four-wheeler and busted up his leg.
No doubt. And a cowboy is, he's a dumb motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
Just period.
Yeah, it comes with the territory.
It comes with territory. But he's gonna tell you what the hell's going on, and he's gonna tell you why things aren't working if you ask him.
Yep.
And there's, I will say one thing about a cowboy is the hard thing is getting him to say anything. But he's gonna say it if you perch on him. And then you can get something out of it, and you can figure out something. A good manager can figure out something out of a cowboy.
Yep.
A good manager can't figure out something out of Juan. And like you said, nothing against our cousins south.
No, because there's plenty of good cowboys that come out of there too. Because we've all worked with them, but they'll tell you the same thing about Juan on the four-wheeler. Like they have pinchy Mexicans. They don't know cattle for shit.
Yeah. and those guys, they won't tell you. They're not going to help the manager.
No.
And so, in my mind, the managers are the ones that's where the foul is.
Yeah.
These ranches haven't gone to shit or anything like that. You talk to all these cowboys and they say, "Oh, these ranches have gone to shit." No, the ranches are fine. The managers suck.
Well, and there's a lot of good cowboys that make good managers, but once you make that step to manager, you ain't one of the cowboys anymore. And as much as you like,
well, that's true.
As much as you want to be, it just, you ain't. Because you're in charge of the cowboys, and that.
That's true.
And
that's true.
It's a very subtle difference, but it's a big difference.
And I think in the manager's defense, I think it's a pretty hard. I think there's a whole bunch of guys that have all the right intentions.
Yeah.
And just don't realize that you can't be.
Well, and also the working guys don't make it easier too. They're a bunch. They can be some real fucking cocksuckers about it too. So I've been on both sides of that deal where it's like I get where that guy's trying to go, and then I've also I've been tried, because I got asked or got moved up the line and got put in charge, and I'm gonna try to treat us all right, and then you're immediately find out how cutthroat people can be, and you're I'm trying to be on your side, motherfucker, but you immediately stab me in the back.
And I think I don't know much about feedlots, but I know about big outfits. I know that a manager's job on a big outfit is mostly to take care of the wives.
Yeah.
To make sure she has everything she wants and needs and this and that and so on and so forth. And, because if she's happy, he'll be happy and he'll stay. And what I think is a whole bunch of these managers don't realize that you don't need to take care of me. You need to take care of my wife.
Yeah.
Whatever she needs, I don't know what she needs.
Well,
You know,
because your average cowboy will just keep doing the job, but when the wife says it's time to go,
and I
It's-
say, okay,
yeah, it's
Yeah.
time to go because yeah, I mean like we're dumb
you're
cowboys.
pissed off because there's cockroaches in the house or whatever the fuck the deal is, spiders or
Yeah.
this or that or the other thing. You know, and that's what it comes down to with these managers is the water's hard or there's scorpions in the house or whatever the fucking deal is. Easy shit to deal with.
Yep.
Well, don't come to me. I don't care. I'm never there. If I'm
Yep.
a good cowboy, I'm never there. I'm not working for you.
Yep. You know, it
You
was you ever read anything on Huey Long? He was kind of like a populist presidential candidate back during the Depression.
No, it
he was-
doesn't ring a bell.
He was from Louisiana, and he was kind of a socialist, kind of a populist. He was a little bit like a Bernie Sanders type, but like his deal was like we're gonna build roads all over Louisiana, and that's how he won governor, and that's how he governed as governor of Louisiana, and then he I think he went on to the Senate, and if I remember right, he got assassinated because and it was like the race that when FDR won his first presidency. I think Huey Long was his primary candidate, and he got assassinated. But he was kind of an authoritarian government type, but he was also kind of a lot like Trump. He would borrow whatever ideas sounded good, but he realized like it doesn't matter what happens in DC. If I'm building roads in Louisiana, people are gonna keep voting for me, you know?
Yeah.
And whether that was meant good things for Louisiana or not, like he was just gonna keep building them fucking roads, man.
Well, the only thing I know about all that is I spent some time in Louisiana and there's roads fucking everywhere.
Yeah, it was I don't know, it was kind of like FDR with like where I grew up in the middle of the country where it was kind of homesteader country, and then that the Dust Bowl hit. There was a lot of Democrats in that part of the world, and it was all because Roosevelt gave him a job. You know, he didn't give him a handout; he gave him a job. And even though their job didn't actually do anything, it wasn't a handout because they were working for it. And
like Roosevelt still was it. We got a plan. It's not a fucking good plan,
but it's a plan. Yeah. No,
yeah,
and it held out for a couple generations too, but it was genius because it like it really wasn't a handout. You had to go work for that money, and sometimes you were doing something good, and most of the times you were just building shit to build shit. But at least
you fucking ditch. Yeah.
But at least you were doing something, you know. And it's like as bad of a plan as it was, I was just like it's a hell of a lot better than just a check every month, you know.
To be perfectly honest with you, I would like to see something like that nowadays.
It would be a lot better than, like I said, that unemployment check.
Oh yeah, I would love to see something like that nowadays. I don't know many young people, but the few of them I know, I just think, man, you just need to work.
You just need a job. Like there's something to that, and like it didn't lead. I don't in the long run it didn't turn out great for the country, but it worked really good
at the time.
And just like it's really hard to argue against that, because without that, I mean, people might have really lost it all. I mean, like they might have just, there was plenty of people that just like they took the dive into, were like, oh, fuck it, nothing matters anymore, and they just went off the deep end. There was plenty of that already, but like how many were saved from that because they're like, well, I gotta go work the stupid fucking job so I can collect a check at the end of the week to pay my feed my family.
For sure. Well, and like, and I'll take this on a personal point of view. I could write for a living.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I write really well, and I could write for a living, but I can't. I can't just because I'm not sweating. I'm not working. I'm not doing. You know, if I just sit down and write, that pays. Fuck, pays pretty good.
Yeah.
And I could make it pay better, but I just can't do it. I got to get up and go work.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've got 3 little kids and I just got to go work. And so that's how so many people in our history's past and to be honest with you, in our history's present feel that they gotta go work.
Yeah.
They gotta go do something.
Just got to do something. I mean, it's a purpose, you know. Even if it's not a great purpose, it's a purpose, you know. And
doesn't have to be a good plan. It's just plan.
Yeah. Well, let's do some. I mean, how many times do you hear that? Like particularly from like the gun control people, like they'll lose on like the merits of the argument all the time, but they're like they just want somebody to do something. And you know, it just
clarify that for me a little bit. The anti-gun people.
Yeah. So like every time there's one of these shootings that come up, they're like, well, will somebody do something? And you know, like, you know, they're angry about the shooting.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, they're drawn to the gun aspect of it and not the fact
and they're mad at the guns or the gun companies.
Yeah. But they just want somebody to do something. And you're like, I'm not. That's also like a red line for me. Like, no, you're not going to do anything about my guns. Like that's a hard red line for me. But also I get where they're coming from. Like I want this to stop. Will somebody do something? And they point to the guns, and I know they're pointing at the wrong. They're barking up the wrong tree, but
for sure.
But I also get that gut instinct where it's just like, well, somebody do something about this. What the fuck are we doing here? And because I feel the same way. Like every time I see one of these stupid shootings, like, what the fuck are we doing here? How do we stop that? You know?
I agree with you there. I agree with you 100% there because like you know, we have one of these shootings, and of course you and I are educated people, and so we know that there's actually not more of them than there ever was.
No, they get hyped up. They get hyped up by the media.
Gun violence because there's more guns,
right?
But in the
there's also more people.
In the history of the world, there's not more mass killings than there ever was.
No.
And so somebody shows up at a mall and kills a bunch of people. Well, fuck, I hate that. I hate everything about that.
Yeah.
And so they say, well, let's do something about it. And like you say, well, no, not, banning guns is the last fucking good idea anybody had. Well, what is a good idea? Well, shit. I don't really know what is a good idea.
I know, and it's a hard argument to make that sometimes doing nothing is better than making a bad decision, you know?
Yeah. What I know is a good idea is pushing ethics on people.
Yeah.
And doing making people think good thoughts.
Yeah.
Like and that's like the most fucking Hunter S. Thompson 1965 thing anybody could ever say. But pushing good ethics on people is way better than pushing
shitty laws.
take your guns away.
Yeah.
Because I'm the same as you. They're not going to get my guns.
No, it just ain't happening. And like that's the thing. All these gun people, like I say, like the people that are not in charge, but like the people that are advocating gun control that don't have any position of power. Like what you don't realize is like when you push these laws through, somebody has to go get the guns at some point because there's going to be a whole bunch of people that ain't going to give them up. And that's when people die. And that it's not going to be good. And so like, does that make you that you still have the same warm fuzzy feelings inside knowing that like, you know, should this law that you support pass could end up like that dude in Utah yesterday that just got blown up by the FBI because he decided to he did levy some actual threats, but were they credible? I don't know. But it was like a 75-year-old man that talked shit on Facebook that got shot in his home by the FBI.
Yeah,
and
I missed that one, but
it was some old dude that was he was probably watched way too much Newsmax or something. And he talked a bunch of shit on Facebook, and then they tried to serve a search warrant on him at like 6 a.m, and somehow he ended up not alive. So
yeah, well, oops.
Yeah,
and then okay, I've got another side to that story too, because unfortunately, I've had a lot of dealings with the police and just I've done a lot of shit wrong, and so I've dealt with the police a bunch, and so the long story short is, cops don't want to fucking shoot you.
Yeah,
they really don't. And that's the last fucking thing they want to do.
Right.
And I can promise you I've done some shit wrong, so wrong that it was the last fucking thing they ever wanted to do was to shoot me. And they didn't.
Yeah.
So 9 out of 10 cops. 9 out of 10 cops or whatever we're saying here. They don't want to fucking shoot you. So you got to go way out of your fucking way to get shot. That's what I'm getting at. And I went way out of my fucking way and tried to get shot and fucking didn't.
Yeah. No, I think there's
and so there's so many of these dumb shits that just push it and push it and push it and push it, that we can't blame the establishment as much as we do. Of course, I'm the first one that's going to blame the establishment. Fuck the establishment. I'm a libertarian.
Yeah,
I'm going to blame the establishment. But on the other hand,
don't be a dumb shit.
Don't be a dumb shit.
Right. Well, and so like that's like this old guy here. He was on, and I honestly, I'm a libertarian too. I have not yet got to the point where I think anarchy is a good thing. Like even
thank God, because right. We can have a private conversation. I will convince you that anarchy is a fucking bad thing, but
I get their argument, those anarcho-capitalists or anarcho-communists, however you want to, like, I just still, it's just as much of a utopia as, like true socialism or true communism or even true capitalism,
But I was just about to say that true capitalism.
Yeah.
True capitalism is the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, we saw like you can, and they will always point to like these little deals within the government that allowed capital, like these big, like particularly the robber baron types, like they had their
Yeah.
they had their government connections, but more than anything, they were just ruthless fucking businessmen. Like they had no morals whatsoever, and they had no problem calling in the state militia to cut down union workers when they were on strike. And just like
Yeah.
they were fucking brutal.
But ask them, if you could ask them what they felt about their wife and their children.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole different deal there.
Yeah, no, there really was, and I just like, have you? I'll send you a link later, but there's a really really fucking good book on it's called Slaughterhouse, and it's on the Chicago Union stockyards and how Chicago became like the meat
I've read it.
Have you?
Yeah.
That's a great book. Like,
it's a fucking good book.
It's and the part about it I liked is he just came at it from as the point of view of a Chicago kid and a guy that that likes history. He didn't have a
agenda.
He didn't have an agenda one way or the other. He just thought this was something special here. Let's tell the story of it.
Yeah, that's it's Slaughterhouse 151 or 121 or something like that.
Oh, that's a different one, but this one's just called Slaughterhouse, and I talked to the professor. I'll send you the link for that because you'll like this book too. And it's he's like he was I think he was a security guard when the stockyards shut down. He actually worked there, but he was a third generation Polak that and they were all there in Chicago. He's just a Chicago kid. And and he's like I guess the best way to put it is like he didn't miss the forest for the trees. Like he covered all the labor unrest and all the shitty things that the Packers did, but he also like talked about what made it so fucking awesome. Like the fact that there was this little like swamp that went from a swamp to like one of the most important cities in the world in the course of 50 years.
Huh.
And
I guess I haven't read that one.
I'll send you the link. It's a great book. And it just like, I don't know. There was not so much of the only narrative is just like, this is a Chicago kid that thought this was cool and told a really cool story of it without trying to disparage one side or the other. And and I don't know. There's something about that, just being able to tell a story without, like I bias always gets their way in there, but like the best ones are just like that just tell the story how it is. Like, I don't know. There's something to that.
Well, bias always gets his way in there, but that's something that the reader, the listener, the whoever, that's their fucking problem.
Yeah.
Because like Steinbeck is the least biased author that I can think of off the top of my head.
I love Steinbeck.
I love Steinbeck too. Probably the least biased that I can think of. Well, but you gotta take into account Steinbeck's biased.
Yeah.
He most definitely was biased. Right now I'm reading a deal about Hunter S. Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
And so Hunter S. Thompson obviously was fucking biased.
Oh, obviously, yeah.
Was way biased. And so I've read 100% of Hunter Thompson's works,
Mm-hmm.
and then this is just biography about him, and then you go, oh, there was that's where that bias was, because it's stuff where they're actually talking to the Hells Angels, and they're saying, well, here's what he did, here's blah blah blah, and you go, well, that doesn't rhyme with the deal. Hunter had every reason to lie, and this guy has no reason to lie.
Mm-hmm.
So there's bias in everything.
Yeah. Well, and even with Dominic Pasiga, like he has a clear bias, which he thinks that the Union Stockyards was something phenomenal throughout history, which I happen to agree with him. But he told
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He told it from that angle. And like, so like, I have no problem with bias. I want to know your bias so I can get into your frame of mind and be like, all right, why are you writing it from your point of view? And like, when you realize like the Hell's Angel part of and I've only kind of recently got into some of Hunter S. Thompson stuff. I know I'm aware of him, and I kind of know. I know a little bit about him, but I haven't actually read a ton of his stuff. But yeah, it's when you can see like where that bias is coming from, but then it puts everything into context, and that's what. And then you're like, oh shit, this piece is even better than I thought when I look at it from that angle.
Yeah.
And so like, like the say like in the meat packing industry, the Jungle by Upton Sinclair is widely known as a propaganda piece, but also it's widely
100% propaganda.
But
I don't buy a single fucking thing out of the Jungle.
No, but also widely regarded, and rightfully so, as
but a good book, yeah,
as one of the most important literary pieces of the 20th century. For sure, because it was. I mean, it led to a lot of reforms, not the reforms that Upton Sinclair wanted, because he was wanting a socialist revolution. And famous quote, he's like, I aimed for the American public's heart and I missed and hit him in the stomach. And then that led to a whole bunch of reforms within the meatpacking industry. But most of that book was bullshit, but it was effective.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, and so, and I'm with you. I think we're on the same page here. That what Upton Sinclair wrote and what he did, I think that benefited both you and I.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're appreciative for that.
Yeah.
But it was horseshit.
Right.
All of it.
Right. And I guess there's kind of like a grain of truth within everything. So like,
well, of course there's some truth. When it comes down to the rats and the this and the that.
But eventually,
of course it was true.
Essentially what he did was took that grain of truth and made it into like a whole kernel of corn, every single one. And so like everything that he told, there was a grain of truth if you looked back far enough. But the story that he told was so far from what actually had happened that you're like, seems like a stretch that you're connecting that. And it's kind of like modern corporate media nowadays, but you're just like,
what, Matt, you're so fun to talk to, because I don't get to talk to very many people that are as well read or as well educated and understand things like you. I do these fucking podcasts all the time, and they're like, well, what do you talk about riding colts? You and I are talking about Upton Sinclair, and that's so much more fun.
Me too. Well,
What a cool fucking thing.
I thank you. I appreciate that because I really enjoy this conversation too, and I really I know I come off sometimes as kind of sucking Joe Rogan's dick, but I really think that guy is one of the best at just having a good conversation.
Mm.
And I've learned a lot from that.
If you go suck somebody's dick, may as well be Joe Rogan.
I know he gets 11 million viewers, so if I get to suck his dick on video, like a lot of people will see it and it'll be fine. But like he really is good at just having a conversation, and like I and this is my personal bias, like some of the best conversationalists out there is the working cowboy, like because there's so many people that are weirdly knowledgeable about one specific topic, and usually it's because that was the one book that they had at cow camp or on this in this bunkhouse or whatever, you know.
One strange thing I found, and so we've been over this 17 times, but I'll just reiterate it. I grew up in Southern Oregon, and then I came to Nevada, and so where all these conversations went in a bunkhouse was like, do you have Egyptian cotton in your bedroll, and the how many strands of cotton what it is, and like we talked about deep. All the time I spent in Nevada were deep fucking really thinking things.
Mm-hmm.
And we were 19, so it wasn't that fucking deep. You know, it was, we talked about it, Sinclair, but it was not that fucking deep.
Yeah.
Because we were kids. But that's what we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Up in Sinclair, Hemingway, Steinbeck, like we talked about fucking deep ideas, and then like like better brands of socks and things like that.
Yeah.
And why socks were better. And so that's where I cut my teeth. And then I went away, and I went everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I went to fucking Europe. I went to Texas. I went to South America. I went to Florida. I went everywhere, and nowhere else. It was just cowboy stories.
Yeah.
And I was like, you fucking dipshits, just living in bunkhouses. And I was like, you fucking dipshits, why aren't we talking about deep, good things? Like this is the whole point. We're making fucking $700 a month, and the point is we get to live.
Yeah.
And those guys didn't do it. California, they did. Nevada, they did. Oregon, they did. Nowhere else.
Huh.
Nowhere else.
Well, and it's one of those things, and I'm always like I'm becoming so much more aware of propaganda the more I read stuff. And so like I'm just wondering, like how much of the image of the American cowboy is just propaganda, because like we know a lot of it, like the rodeo announcer view of
9/10 of it.
Yeah, like the rodeo view announcer view of the American cowboy. You know, like you got the what's their names from Utah, all those bronc riders, and what's their name?
Oh yeah,
the Wright boys. You know,
the Wright brothers. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're just squeaky clean. You know, just like good looking, upright citizens. You know, as my dad would say, he's like them sweet smelling fellas over there, and like, and I honestly, I believe they are probably extremely decent people, and I would have nothing against them. But like that's what like rural America wants every cowboy to be like, and we fucking know
Yeah.
that's not true. That's just not fucking true. Like the cowboys are the dregs of society. They
Oh yeah. Fuck yeah.
they
Yeah.
go they go do those jobs because they can go be by themselves.
I'm so happy to hear you say that. That cowboys are dregs of society, because well, fuck, that's what we really are.
We are the poor immigrant workers that didn't want to live in a city. Like
Yeah.
we're like those pack and plant like kill floor workers, but
Yeah.
we just happened to make it out in the big wide open.
Yeah. And we just, well, and so there's something that are you familiar with Arnold Rojas?
I know the name, and I know it's on my book list. I haven't read it yet, but I it's one like
Yeah.
I've been told many times I got to read.
Yeah. Arnold wrote 4 or 5 books,
Yeah.
and I mean, he fucking lived it. He was a Miller and Lux cowboy.
Mm-hmm.
He fucking lived it. And he says those guys, if they couldn't ride, they'd die.
There. Yeah. It's
Yeah, because and in a couple of those books, he explains what I mean is they would starve to death because they didn't know how to do anything except punch cows.
Yep. That's exactly right. And it was like it was so much more diverse back in the day too, because you had Mexicans, and you would have, I mean, that was what was so special about like Lonesome Dove, because it captured like the freed black man, the Mexicans, the Scotch Irish, they it just
Yeah.
it was just like, I mean, there was literally like Dish Boggett, uh if he couldn't punch cows, he didn't know what to do, because once he got his paycheck, he went to the whorehouse and blew it all on one good night, and then he had to go work for 6 months just so he could do it all again.
Yeah.
And like,
Really.
if that's not the dregs of society, I don't know what is. And but it was, yeah, and I don't know, that was
Well, say that again. If that's not the what?
the dregs of society, is where like you just have to go, like you're just going from whatever to whatever, and it's just like a cycle of life, like that
Well,
all like poor people kind of fall into.
I see what you're saying, but look at it this way: if that's not the purity of society,
No,
too,
and oh, okay, so let me
if
clarify.
that's not the beauty of society, if that's not the best of us, if that's not the the best way we can go.
Okay, so let me clarify, because, well, if that's not the dregs of society, I don't know what is. But if that's not just the story of America, I also don't know what else is, because it, like, when the white settlers s- landed here, it was a beautiful untouched land, or for the most part untouched land, but people with decent technology and other people that knew how to work it, and it's just been a constant story of poor people making something fucking awesome. And but it's always been like, it's
And
America's.
maybe not even awesome, just something fucking good enough.
Yeah, or just something, like they made something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And like that's just kind of the story of America, but it's always the dregs of society that did it. It's I mean, it was, if you want to go like go super woke, and the folks that say that like it was America was built on slavery. It kind of was, but we're not the slaves. We're not the slaves, the dregs of society. I mean, they definitely were, and they essentially, you know, that they created the economy for the southern half of the country for quite a while. And I don't know, it's always like America has and always will be, I think, kind of a rags to riches story. And so it takes like those dregs of society, the poor people that are, but the strong ones and the ones that just want to make something, they always do.
Well, yeah, yeah, I'm kind of buying what you're selling a little bit. I mean,
What am I missing?
well, what I'm what I'm hearing here is that trade society, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, but you also have to have something nobody else got.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just being a fucking shitbag doesn't help very much.
No, no.
And so, what what you need to do is do something nobody else has done,
Right.
which is fucking hard.
Yeah. It is.
And you're doing it with your podcast. You're doing something nobody else has done. That's cool. And I hope it's making money.
One of these days.
But
One of these days.
yeah, maybe one of these days. But you know what? I want to see. What I want to see is somebody coming up at the dregs of society that you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
that we're all born from. We're all eventually, if you shift back long enough, we're all from dregs society.
Oh yeah.
Like, I want to see somebody fucking rise up and do fucking something. Do something.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I think that like that's a kind of the story of America, because we all kind of even the really rich people that landed here, whenever, like the wealthiest among them all, they had to fucking build something. Like it
Yeah.
didn't matter what the fuck you were in England, if you couldn't survive from day to day here, like it didn't matter a bit. And it's like, yeah, there's been poor people throughout the history of man, but there's, for whatever reason, in America in particular, there's been a whole lot more of people that started with nothing that then made something really cool. So
Yeah, I'm not sure why that is.
yeah.
And that's something particularly cool about America. But you know, look at Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
He started with nothing more than you and I've got,
Yeah.
and made a fucking big deal out of himself. Well, I don't know. Looks like it might work,
Mm-hmm.
but he made a fucking big deal out of himself.
Yeah.
Well, geez, I've I've never I've never taken that step. So I got a ton of respect for that guy.
Oh yeah, he brought me some really, really, really good internet to pretty rural Nevada. And
Oh, there you go.
but also he's kind of a pretentious douchebag. It's like I really respect what he's done. He's I think he's done a lot of good for mankind. He's also kind of a douche.
Yeah, and I could give a shit less about mankind. To be honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
I care about me, and I care about my family,
Mm-hmm.
and I just don't give a shit about mankind. And so, well, maybe that's my fuck up. Maybe that's why Elon Musk is what he is, and I'm what I am.
Maybe. I don't know. I I don't know. I just I know where I grew up, where I came from, and I know the people that, like, most of the people I think the most of are people that I've known for a long time. And I know them personally. I've known them for a long time, and I I feel a certain kinship with anybody in kind of rural Western America. Like, I feel like that's my tribe. I don't care what what race or religion, ethnicity, whatever. Like, if you're from kind of, the Mississippi River to the Sierras, somewhere in that and rural America, in that part of rural America, like, that's kind of who I identify with, regardless of what your skin color is.
Okay. So and then what?
I don't know. I don't know, because the problem with that is, most of those type of people are like me and you. We're like, I'm gonna take care of me and my family first, and kind of piss on everybody else. But also, at what point do you have to branch out and see? That's where, like, I can't ever be completely anarchy, because if you're like, a true anarchist is gonna most likely end up like Randy Weaver at Ruby Ridge, and so at some point you got to have a common defense, and I don't know, man. The world has got a lot weirder to me here in the last 4 or 5 years than I can ever imagine.
Well, I'd like to think that you already, just because you're doing a podcast and reaching out, and talking to people, so therefore you're more open-minded,
Mm-hmm.
and this is maybe how you're feeding your family. But that you're taking a big chance here.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. I don't know. I always fall back on, like, I'm pretty sure I can still go get hired on at a cowboy outfit somewhere if I really had to. Like, if I had to.
Oh yeah, well yeah, fuck.
Yeah,
Well,
I ain't worried about, like, I'd like to make some money off this thing. Like, truth be told, I'd love to do this full time and then cowboy on the side. Um because my body's gonna break down at some point.
yeah,
More so than it already has. We can't all be Boots O'Neill and
yeah,
break your leg at 99 and be back a horseback in a month and a half. Like, that's fucking retarded. Like, that just doesn't happen, except for Boots. But I just, like, I don't know. I was talking to Dave Stamey the other day, and I'm not trying to name drop, but like he was talking about how like his passion for this part of the world because it's underserved and underheard, and he's doing his part to put our name out there because there's a lot of us out there, but there's a lot of miles in between us too, you know? Like whereas, you know, we don't live on top of each other. There's still a lot of working cowboys out there. Um
Yeah.
and but yeah, there's a lot of space in between us, and I it's hard. I don't know. It's I think Dave's doing like I think his heart's in the right place where he says he's just trying to tell our story, and I agree with him too, but also I'm of the point where or of the opinion where like the the rural American West has relied on somebody else to tell their story for so long that they don't even know how to tell a story, you know? And 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 it's a shame because we have the best fucking stories on earth. I mean, like any old cowboy that'll tell you about a night in Elko or something. Like they've got some great fucking stories to tell, but somehow we've abandoned that part of things to you know like prop up this image of the American cowboy that ain't even true.
Yeah. Well, okay. I see where you're going with it. And I see how it's true. I see how the bystander can't see the difference between cowboy and cowboy.
Mm-hmm.
But what I don't see is that I don't I don't see David Stamey's idea that there's not enough, that we're not pushing it, we're not putting it out there, we're not like, you know, I guess from David Stamey's point of view, David Stamey was never a fucking cowboy.
That's what I've heard, but
You know, I see how from the outside looking in, I honestly I think this deal, I think the American cowboy is stronger and better than he ever was.
right. No, I don't disagree with that. And maybe I should rephrase that. And I think maybe, and I'm not going to try to put words in Dave Stamey's mouth, but I think he's talking about the rural American, I guess the working cowboy or the American cowboy. Like, say what you will about Yellowstone, but it gave a lot of young guys the itch to go cowboy, which is
Yeah, I've never even watched that show, but I know what it's about. So
yeah. I mean, I don't know. It just like if a bunch of young fellers want to go try out cowboying, like I think that's a good thing.
yeah,
And
no, I do too.
whether they think they're you know whether that the story they bought into is true or not, is irrelevant to me. They'll find out real pretty fucking quick whether that story is true or not, and it'll weed out the ones that don't actually want a cowboy real quick. But I I I do wonder about the American rancher. Because like you look at like the wine cup and the gamble, the 4 6s, like most of the big ranches are not, they're not owned really by anybody. They're it's a corporation that owns it.
Yeah,
It's a division of a bigger corporation. And but that's also kind of what the American West has always been. Like most of the big ranches were owned by people in Scotland before they got owned by big oil interests and whatnot. So like that, like the American, like the family ranchers, I don't even know if that's a real thing. Like it's been around, but like there's only been a handful of like family ranchers that made like big deals of their ranch, and those most of them were ruthless as fuck. And then there's just like guys like me and you that just, I don't know, we're go punch cows. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know, like all that whole deal is like, I don't even know where we fit into this world, but I like punching cows.
Well, guess what I know is that you need end steel in 14 seconds. Good night. We love you. So on and so forth.
Yeah. Good enough.
All right.
Are you heading out?
Yeah. No. Yeah. I'm played out.
All right. Good enough. Well, hey, I appreciate your time, man. It's been fun.
All right. Sounds good, Matt.
All right. We'll see you
Take it easy.
later.
Bye.
Your eyes up in the morning, beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horse is kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. You'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right. Burning daylight. Well, life is just a gather, and you won't catch 'em all. But when you ride through the gate, make sure you sit up tall. I can see the horizon, it's looking pretty bright. Well, get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right.